Today, we're going to talk about something that we don't typically talk about enough, and that is coaching styles. Now, I'm going to pull up a diagram here in a second that I think will depict what I'm talking about. We're going to cover four very basic coaching styles. Now, there's a couple rules that I always encourage people to follow as coaches. Number one, be yourself, be authentic. Don't try to be something that you're not. A lot of times I'll get the question like, well, what if you get a question you don't know the answer to? Tell them you don't know the answer. And you want to be not even as best you can, just be yourself. So my style is to be very direct. It's to use a little bit of humor to deflect so people aren't as defensive. Yet I also know stylistically I can gravitate better. Sometimes I'm too direct, or sometimes I'll be what you'll see one of our styles collaborative. I'll try to be too collaborative or too empowering when sometimes I need to be more directive. So while stylistically you want to be yourself, be flexible enough to navigate to styles to suit the situation successfully and to suit the person that you're coaching. Let me pull up the diagram real quick. So this is our styles. And some can have short-term success, some can have long-term success. Let's look at the left side, directive coaching and developmental coaching. Directive is when we tend to give clear guidance, almost like a mentoring relationship. And then developmental coaching focuses on long-term growth. Now, collaborative coaching, which the leader can partner with the employee to co-create goals, which is awesome. And then empowerment coaching, the leader encourages the employee to take responsibility for their own decisions. And you could certainly have different, quite frankly, different adaptations between these goals. So what I'm going to do is walk you through some of the definitions a little bit more in depth. So directive coaching. This is when there's clear guidance, structure, specific instructions. One of the things about directive coaching that I love, if you have someone who doesn't know what to do, it's okay to give them a directive. And I think a lot of times we get into this, I use the term absolutism. I've got to ask all questions as a good coach would. It's all about questioning. It is, but it doesn't have to always be questions. So if you give someone a directive, then you can ask a question afterwards. Let me give you the most fundamental example. I had somebody who was very negative in the workplace. And one of the directives I gave to him was doing random acts of kindness for other employees. I've done it a lot with people. And then I want you to write down, after you performed a random act of kindness, the facial expression you saw. And what did you learn about yourself? What I just did seems really simple. I gave a directive. I asked them to reflect or journal the experience, what they saw, and then answer a question. What did you learn about yourself? It's powerful. After about 2 months, this guy just started to do the random acts of kindness without being told to do the random acts of kindness. He became a better teammate. Did he have negative attitude issues? Of course he did. And it's not about fixing people. It's about addressing things. And so directive, sometimes you can just give that directive and then simply say, what did you learn from the experience? Or what did you observe? What did you see? And then answer a question. What did you learn about yourself? What are 2 things you're going to do to continue this? What's the benefit if you continue to do this? The next is collaborative. Now, this is where the leader partners with the employee to co-create goals. I think this is not suggested for everybody, but if you're establishing a relationship to coach employees, I go back to the fundamentals of what we teach at Progress Coaching, and that is QALMS. And I go back to the motivator, and the M, the motivator, is their career goals. If you can coach to the expectations of a job and then coach to where they want to go, that is a very collaborative approach and extremely powerful. I always like to dig in and say, where do you want to go next? What's your next step in your career, whether it's inside your job or outside your job? Number 2, what's that ultimate destination? If they know what that is, collaborative can be a highly successful approach in terms of styles. Now, number 3, developmental. This is where the leader focuses on long-term growth by helping employees build self-awareness, problem-solving skills. It encourages learning from reflection and experience. And quite frankly, there's probably some vacillation between these styles. I always go back to what we teach in Progress Coaching. You have 3 stages of change: effort, progress, and results. So if somebody is changing slow, and they will. And recently, I just did a session, and I have to share this. It's with a client with leaders from India, China, Korea, all over Europe, one from Australia, many from North America. They all said the same thing. They go, I'm getting better at coaching, yet people change slow. And I said, they do. So developmental can be slow going. You can start with collaborative and then gravitate into developmental. And again, there's gray area between all these styles. And so think about what somebody really needs to improve. And we encourage you to focus on one thing per quarter. And per quarter, they're going to go through 3 levels of change: effort, progress, and results. So if I have a negative attitude and I've been practicing that negative attitude for years, you're not going to have 1 or 2 coaching conversations and I'm cured, for example. It's not going to happen. You have to be developmental in that process. And then number 4 is empowerment. And this is where the leader asks powerful questions and provides encouragement, allowing employees to take responsibility for their own decision. This is great for, especially for succession planning. If someone has gravitated away from developmental, meaning they're developing, they're producing the things they need to, they're improving in the areas, they're going through the levels of change, and maybe they want to become a leader. And that's where to give them that trust and to put them in a position where they're responsible for decisions and actions, that is empowerment. So when you look at this diagram again, and let me just pull this up for you, it's really powerful to look at this. So again, I tend to be a little bit more collaborative, and sometimes I look back and say, you know what, I needed to be more directive. This is not about being perfect. This is about, quite frankly, this is about really understanding your person, where they're at, what's the situation, and what can I really tap into. Yet foundationally, I share this with everybody. Make sure that you are really in a position that you are just simply being yourself. Don't sit there and go, oh, should I be collaborative? Should I be empowering? Should I be directive? Just have a conversation. The conversation itself, if you ask questions and you just listen, and hopefully you actively listen by paraphrasing back what they said, you're going to be ahead of 95% of the leaders in the world, literally. Studies bear that out, literally. So stylistically, if you can learn, where does directive empower me and empower I shouldn't use the word empower. Where does directive serve me well in my people? When should I be more collaborative? When should I be more developmental? When should I be more empowering? And just tap into these definitions and then think about the people you're coaching. Think about the situation in which what style might prompt the greatest success or craft the greatest success. So again, coaching styles, again, be yourself, be authentic. The one thing I always encourage leaders to stay away from is that self-permission to continue to behave a certain way. So for example, when someone goes, well, I've always been direct, that's just the way I am. And when we're like that, we cut ourselves off from the other styles. Now, I tend to overcoach. I tend to be too collaborative when sometimes I just need to be more directive or I need to be more developmental. And so again, there's gray areas between these 4 quadrants, if you will, of coaching styles. Don't just pick and choose from a literal standpoint. Realize the power each serves situations and the people that report to you. Let us know if you have any questions.